Hello, you. Welcome to Neighborful at Night. We are here together to help you lay down the business of the day so that you can rest. My name is Michael, and I'm the creator and host of Neighborful Station, a story based meditation podcast set in a small town that's big enough for all of us. If you feel comfortable letting me know in the chat where you're joining from tonight, I would love to hear from you. I welcome our family and dear friends from Minnesota, and I offer gratitude to those of you who live elsewhere and are holding the people of Minnesota in your heart. This is a hard time of year during some of our longest nights. Many of us are surrounded by cold, snow, and ice. It's easy for us to feel lost and alone. We gather here for Neighborful at Night to remember that we are connected and that the world we are longing to create together is still possible, no matter how hard this day has been. So let's take a moment now to get comfy. I invite you to close your eyes if that feels right to you and listen to my voice. Take a deep breath. As you leave behind the hustle of your day, take a moment now to think of someone who brings peace to your heart. This can be someone from your present or your past, someone who is still with us or not. It can even be someone that you don't know personally, but have seen out in the world. Think of how this person inspires you to seek peace in your own life and take another deep breath. Let's widen that circle and think about all of the people in your life who have shown you how to be generous, courageous, and kind. These can be relatives or chosen family. They can be teachers, coaches, mentors, or neighbors. I want you to take 30 seconds right now and remember how these people have formed you with their love. I will keep the time. Thank you, friends. As we close out this meditation, I invite you now to stretch your arms and legs out a little, if that's comfortable for you, and let go of the tensions of the day. Each time we gather for Neighborful at Night, we're going to hear from people in our community. These will be artists and crafters, community activists, and good neighbors. Sometimes I will be sharing their stories, and sometimes they will be sharing their own. The goal, as always, is to help us remember that a better world is possible right now, and that joy is always available to us. Tonight, I want to do a little show and tell with you. A few years ago, I realized that I needed a hobby. I didn't really have anything going on in my life outside of work and parenting, and I didn't know how to rest my mind and heart other than taking naps and watching movies. I needed to find something that was just for me and would help relax me. As I looked around for options, I realized that I needed something cheap, portable, and easy to do in 20 or 30 minutes at a time. I settled on coloring with pencils and soon got myself a carrier, a sharpener, and some coloring books. Coloring is so easy to start and stop and requires no special training. If you haven't colored since childhood and found the experience frustrating back then, you may discover that your motor skills have improved quite a bit since that time. It was a big breakthrough for me when I realized that I don't need to use the quote unquote right colors in my work. Leaves can be bright blue and trees can be pale purple. Now I enjoy my coloring time even more as I get more creative in my choice of colors. The next step was to bring coloring into other parts of my life. My niece and nephew are in the K-pop Demon Hunters age range. When I went shopping for coloring books, I discovered Crayola's Epic Book of Awesome, which is an absolute fever dream. There is a cat astronaut landing on the moon, planting their goldfish in a bowl flag. There are grannies on razor-style scooters wearing 80s vintage funky sunglasses. There are unicorns on unicycles juggling donuts with sprinkles because why not? Each time you turn the page and think to yourself, whoa, that was weird. I don't know if it can get weirder. The Epic Book of Awesome says, challenge accepted. It goes on like this, deliriously wholesome and fun and inspiring, for nearly 300 pages. You will run out of crayons before it runs out of strange delights. This coloring book costs less than a Happy Meal and is so much better for you. Epic even has 2 pages of stickers at the front. When they said awesome, they weren't kidding. For around $10 all in, between the book and the crayons, you can transport yourself to a world in which any color you choose to put on the page will make perfect sense, because nothing makes any sense at all. The Epic Book of Awesome is the perfect coloring book for our time. Now, I want you to take a moment and think back to a time in your life when you got to do something that was purely for fun, purely for you. Maybe it was a solo day at the beach, or a long walk after work. Maybe it was a craft project at summer camp when you were a kid. Bring yourself back to that experience. Notice what it feels like to refill your own cup and take a slow breath. All right. See if it feels good now to wiggle your fingers and toes and try to release any tension in your shoulders by holding them up by your ears for a moment and then letting them down. Next, I'd like to share a message from our neighbor line here at Neighborful Station. We have a voicemail box where our listeners call in and tell their stories from the real world of neighbors who have taken great care of them. Tonight's message comes from our friend Jane in Missouri.
Hi, this is Jane. I live in Missouri. And one day when my kids were little, I was getting them back from the park and they didn't want to go back from the park. So they were screaming. I had not brought the stroller or any way to carry them, which was a miscalculation on my part. But I was essentially dragging two screaming toddlers down the street. And as I walked past a new neighbor's house, someone on my block, but who I had hardly met, she opened her door and said, "I have banana bread," because she knew that my kids needed a reset and they probably needed a snack. So it was such a relief. We went into her house where I had never been before. She fed the kids. Their mood improved, and she literally saved my day. So shout out to Megan. It is exactly the kind of neighboring that makes me love my block. Megan and I are now dear friends. Our families are friends. We hang out all the time. The kids are like constantly running around the block together, getting into good mischief, and we go on vacation together. We are becoming like family, which is exactly what I want for my neighborhood. So I'm happy to share that story.
With Jane's message in mind, take a moment now to think back to a time when one of your neighbors has taken great care of you. This could be a recent experience, or it could be from earlier in your life. Remember what it felt like to know that you were supported when you really needed help, and take a deep breath. Now, let's have one more big stretch together. On Monday, we will be back for another edition of Neighborful at Night, celebrating Martin Luther King Day. We will hear a bedtime biography about Bayard Rustin, who helped organize the March on Washington, where Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech. I'm putting a link in the chat now so you can add Monday's show to your calendar. As we come to the end of this gathering, I invite you to stick around as we listen to a sleep edition episode of Neighborful Station. Tonight's episode is called Unresolved. You attend a day-long gathering about all the different ways in which you need rest. This gathering takes place in the cozy room of our Union Hall in town, which is shared by all of the workers who live in Neighborful Station. The story will play for about 10 minutes, and then the soundscape of the town will continue to fill out a full hour. If you'd like to set a sleep timer on your device, you can set it right now for 1 hour, and it should switch off just before the soundscape runs out. Please know if you're on a phone or tablet and you go to set up that timer, you will not hear the broadcast for a second, but it will be there when you come back. You might like to let the soundscape play if you're ready for bed, or just to have some peaceful background noise as you take some time away from your screens. I want to thank you again for joining us and for taking this opportunity to rest. You are wonderful, just as you are, and you deserve a world that lives up to your goodness. May you find comfort and strength with your community during these difficult times. May you always remember that you are surrounded by the love that has formed you. And may you grant yourself the gift of rest tonight. Welcome to the sleep edition of Neighborful Station. At the end of the story, the soundscape will continue to play so that you can fall asleep. Sweet dreams. This January weekend arrives in Neighborful Station with gray skies and steady rain, and a temporary reprieve from the cold that has dominated the winter so far. You are sitting in Cafe Francis at the Union Hall with one of the Jessicas, who has invited you to join her for a day-long gathering focused on rest called Unresolved. The cafe is buzzing as usual, and you take in the sight of kids bouncing around the play area at one end of the room, burning off their cabin fever. You hear the espresso machine hissing and growling at the hands of the barista, who plays it like a musical instrument.
You hold your cup of mint tea to your lips, feeling its reassuring warmth in your hands, and the fragrant steam fills your nose. You take a sip, enjoying the earthy flavor of the tea, and you draw in a slow breath. Jessica brings her attention back to you after a moment of reverie with her own latte and says, "Shall we?" You say, "Yes, let's go." And the two of you make your way upstairs. You have been on the third floor of the Union Hall before, during the holiday swap, but there wasn't much time to look around. This is where all of the sewing shops and textile programs are located. But there is also a cozy room at the opposite end of the floor from the elevators. The two of you step inside and you see a motley collection of second-hand couches and armchairs set up in a rough circle around the middle of the room. The walls are hung with tapestries and quilts that have been made here in the sewing shops. The room smells of soft and well-loved fabrics, a scent that suddenly reminds you of your grandmother's house. Positioned near the entrance are Dr. Sandra, who leads the Land Trust, and Dr. Skennon, the botany professor from the college in town. The two of them take turns embracing Jessica, and Dr. Skennon says, "Hello, you. We're so glad you could join us today." You say, "Hello again, Dr. Skennon. I'm excited to be here." Dr. Sandra offers you her hand, and you feel the strength in her grip from many years of work in the greenhouses. She says, "It's so good to see you again. We have a quilt for you. Are you ready to get some new kinds of rest?" You say, "Yes, I'm really intrigued." Dr. Sandra reaches behind her wheelchair to a pile of quilts and pulls the top one into her lap. She says, "Ooh, this one is really lovely. It's in the style of the G's Bend quilts." She smooths the quilt over her own legs for a moment, admiring the intricate pattern of bright colors before she hands it up to you. You and Jessica take your quilts and find a comfy couch to settle into before the day begins. The two doctors close the doors to the room, and the attendees murmur with anticipation, looking around and smiling at each other. Dr. Skennon pushes a button on a panel by the doors, and the room fills with the sounds of the forest on the edge of town. She announces, "This is a live audio feed from the research station up on the ridge. Let's get ourselves grounded in nature as we gather." You unfold your quilt and spread it around yourself so you can see more of the pattern. As you feel your legs warming underneath the quilt, you trace your index finger over the stitches that join the careworn strips of fabric. You listen to the gentle sounds of the winter rain falling on the trees, and you take a centering breath. Dr. Sandra clears her throat and says, "There are many types of rest that are available to us, far more than just taking naps or getting a good night's sleep, although we certainly do love those moments. Today, we invite you to set aside your New Year's resolutions and the pressure to hustle. We invite you to make space, to find connection, and to create meaning. We will learn and practice several kinds of rest to help you make a wonderful new year for yourself. Dr. Skennon adds, in every kind of life there are seasons of rest. The trees and plants around us rest in the winter. Even as we hear some forest life stirring, we know that most of the animals are hibernating. They don't sign up for gym memberships in January, and they don't vow to drop 20 pounds before the river beach opens again. At this, everyone laughs. Dr. Skennon continues, within every day, week, and month, there are times when we should rest. You might find you need more space for yourself in your luteal phase. You might need more connection with nature when work gets stressful. Think of the types of rest available to you as a toolkit, and give yourself the freedom of choosing the right tool for each moment. You are paired up with another participant for an exercise on creative rest, and you find yourself collaging with Noah, the 9th grader you first met at the homecoming game. When the two of you get started, his hands are busy as he rustles through a stack of old magazines, looking for images. But he stops himself, closes his eyes, and takes a deep breath. You follow his example, listening to the contented hum of the room around you, and you breathe deeply. Noah opens his eyes and looks at you with a serious expression on his face. He tells you, I get excited sometimes, and I make mistakes because I'm in a rush. But my math teacher told me this week that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You say, that makes sense to me. Noah starts clipping a picture from a magazine and pauses, looking up at you again. He says, I just thought of something. We're doing chili bowls at the middle school next week. It's a big dinner for the whole town, and the 9th graders come back to help. Will you join us for dinner? You say, yes, that sounds fun. Thanks for inviting me. Noah replies, yeah, for sure. It kind of feels like my job somehow. You say, I think that's right. It is your job.